Hello guys, you are welcome to uComputing's YouTube channel. My name is Eugene, and today we're going to have a look at how we can enable and use Windows Sandbox. Right now, what is Windows Sandbox? Windows Sandbox provides users with a virtualized, lightweight desktop environment to safely run applications in total isolation. It stores apps and files temporarily, so if you use Windows Sandbox to test your software, after the testing, when you close Windows Sandbox, everything will be gone. So anytime you open Windows Sandbox, it gives you a new instance of a virtualized, lightweight version of the Windows operating system to test your softwares. So for instance, if let's say you have an application that has been developed by a third-party software engineer and you're about to test it, you don't need to really run it on an actual operating system if you don't trust the source, all right? Or you have downloaded some software from the internet and then you're about to test it for the very first time and you don't really trust the source. Even if you trust the source, and for some reason you don't want it to make your operating system unstable, you can run it on this lightweight virtual machine that Microsoft has provided for us called Windows Sandbox. So Microsoft is just providing us a platform to test unknown applications or untested applications, right? So that you won't cause any harm to your underlying operating system. So first of all, before you can use Windows Sandbox, there are some prerequisites that you need to meet, right? Windows Sandbox is not in all the Windows operating systems. It was first introduced in Windows 10 and it's in the recent version of the Microsoft Windows operating system, which is Windows 11. But even if you're using Windows 10, you need to make sure you're running the Pro Edition, the Enterprise Edition, the Education Edition with build number 18305. So anything that falls within this category, you can have the option to enable and use Windows Sandbox. Now, when it comes to hardware requirement, you need a dual-core 64-bit CPU with hyper-threading and virtualization support. So if you have a computer and it doesn't support virtualization, you cannot use Windows Sandbox. You need to make sure your system supports virtualization. And if for some reason your system supports virtualization but it is not enabled, you need to get into the BIOS of your system and enable virtualization. When it comes to RAM, you need a minimum 4 GB RAM to use Windows Sandbox, right? But 8 GB is recommended. So on the system that we're going to use to demo Windows Sandbox for the first time on uComputing's YouTube channel, it's running 8 GB of RAM, right? When it comes to hard disk space, so you need a minimum of 1 GB hard disk free space or SSD free space before you can enable and use Windows Sandbox. Now, let's get into the demo. If you're running on Windows 10 operating system or Windows 11 operating system, there are other ways that you can do this. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to access the Programs and Features console by pressing the Window key plus R to open the run prompt and type in this command over here, appwiz.cpl, right? appwiz.cpl. This command over here is going to take us straight into the Programs and Features console. And when you get into the Programs and Features console of your Windows 10 or Windows 11 operating system, you need to go for this option over here, Turn Windows Features on or off. Now, when I click on this link over here, it's going to open up the Windows Features dialog box. And when you scroll down to the W column, you're going to see Windows Sandbox over here. So the only thing that you need to do is to access this Programs and Features console and click on Turn Windows Features on or off and then come to this side, right? Now, when I check this option over here and I go OK, it's going to turn on the Windows Sandbox feature for this my Windows 10 operating system, right? It's going to take a moment to finish. Once the Windows Sandbox feature is enabled, you're going to be prompted to go for a restart or do not restart your system. Okay, so if you want the Windows Sandbox to start working immediately, you just need to go for the restart now option. So I'm going to click restart and allow my system to reboot. So after the system is done restarting, to use Windows Sandbox, the only thing that you need to do is just click on your start menu and then type Windows. Okay, Windows Sandbox comes up. This is the logo for Windows Sandbox. So you just click on Windows Sandbox. It's going to take a minute and then it's going to load. Great. So as you can see, we have an instance of our Windows 10 operating system running over here. If you're also using Windows 11 on your system, you're going to have an instance of your Windows 11 operating system up and running. It looks just like a virtual machine. It is half a virtual machine, half an operating system. So you can use this one to test any software that you want to test. You can also use it to visit any sites that you think is an unsafe website that you need to be cautious of. You can use a browser over here. It typically mimics your existing operating system. So you have internet connection on your system, so you're going to have internet connection, and you can use it to visit any site that you think is unsafe and you want to use a safe environment like Windows Sandbox to run it. So let's test by trying to install an application on Windows Sandbox, right? It allows us to do a direct copy and paste from our host machine. So I'm going to just get into my downloads folder. Okay, so I've already downloaded a copy of the WinRAR software, and then I also have a file over here. I'm going to just copy the two into my Windows Sandbox. And as I said earlier on, what happens is that when you use Windows Sandbox to do anything, because it's totally isolated from your existing operating system, when there's a malicious activity in the package that you are trying to install or do work on, you're not going to have any problems. The virus cannot spread from here into your existing operating system, right? Or if there's any, let's say this is a malware and it's not actually WinRAR, it's not going to affect your system. Okay, so it's very safe. So I'm going to run it by just double clicking my WinRAR setup. You can also go full screen. It also supports full screen. When you click here, it takes you to full screen mode, and you can have the full screen mode of this Windows Sandbox. I'm going to click OK right here. Installation is complete. Once it completes, you see that we have the WinRAR application up and running. So I can just click on the start menu here in my Windows Sandbox and then launch the WinRAR application. When I launch it, as you can see, our WinRAR application is up and running. So if this is a software, for instance, that you want to test, you can do this with just about any software that you want. So, but one cool thing about the Windows Sandbox is that after using the Windows Sandbox, when you close it, that instance of the Windows Sandbox is totally wiped from your system. Let's attempt closing it and see. When I click on the close button here, it says here, are you sure you want to close Windows Sandbox? Once Windows Sandbox is closed, all of its content will be discarded and permanently lost, right? So it's cool. Now, when I go OK here, let's see. When we open another instance of the Windows Sandbox and then type Windows Sandbox to launch it again to see if what we are saying about Windows Sandbox is actually true. Another instance of the Windows Sandbox has been loaded, and as you can see, all the WinRAR that we installed, all the files that we copied to the platform is gone, right? So this is how Windows Sandbox works. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like the video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel to support us, and have a great day.